The Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 10mm Performance Center Edition. Let's check it out. 10mm, one of my favorite calibers. A lot to do with the ballistics, and it's become very popular. And there are a number of different options out on the market. Last year, Smith & Wesson introduced their M&P 2.0, and this is the 10mm. The one big thing about this pistol over all the other 10s is the ergonomics. It's thinner, it feels like you're shooting a 9mm pistol, just a touch larger, but not really, almost not noticeable. But you want to have enough grip to be able to handle the 10mm, and to me, Smith & Wesson really hit it out of the ballpark. There were a couple of things. The trigger I was not all that excited about, but overall, this has just been a great handgun. And of course, with Smith & Wesson's Performance Center, they really upped the game. And one of the biggest things they changed on this was the trigger. It's a much vastly improved trigger. But also, it has a ported barrel, 5.6 inches. It has slide cuts, and it's optics ready just like the original. But man, what a fantastic shooting handgun. Now we want to give a big thank you to Smith & Wesson for sending the Performance Center 10mm. They did give me the pistol so I can compare it with a lot of others. But guys, I'm going to give you an honest review of the pistol regardless. Smith & Wesson introduced their 2.0 10mm last year, about February. I love it. There's a full review on it, and I'll have it annotated right above. One of the things about the original is the grip is just extremely ergonomic, and it has more of that 1911 17-degree grip angle. I like that because it just naturally points for me. This is an excellent gun. There's a lot of cool things, but with the Performance Center, there's been some upgrades to it. And with Performance Center pistols, typically from Smith & Wesson, I mean, they just are cut above. They give it a little bit more attention to detail, and there's some things about this pistol, to me, that really kind of set this apart, especially for 10mm. First thing we're going to do is go ahead and drop our 15+1 magazine. Check the chamber, it's empty. It does come with 2 magazines, and these are the same that are in the standard 2.0 10mm. One of the things too is that it has extended magazines available, I think up to 22 rounds. One of the things about this pistol is it's really a predecessor to the M&P 2.0 10mm metal competition model, which was an aluminum frame. And they're very much similar to this one, even with the extended slide. And so this is not necessarily something really new in a sense, but there are some features with this that I like better. Polymer frame, very well done because it's Smith & Wesson. I mean, they do a great job. One thing too about the grip, you know, Smith & Wesson has had different situations with their grips, and they really got very aggressive there for a while, to the point that when you were wearing it, it would really wear on you a little bit. This is more of a really aggressive texturing, but it's not too aggressive. But it allows you to get a very confident grip on the pistol, and that's a huge thing, especially with 10mm. But one of the big things about this handgun is this up front. And you can see it does extend out, has the high power type cuts. You have ports in the slide on both sides and on the top. It does have a 5.6 inch barrel, but the one thing about the Performance Center is that it is ported. The barrel has ports in it, and that's going to tame the recoil. And when it comes to 10mm, that can be very effective because you have a really fast moving projectile coming out the end, and the recoil can be a little excessive if you're not used to shooting 10 millimeter. Definitely a lot more than your 9 millimeter. But I really like the ports. Now, I'll just be honest with you. I have not shot this gun yet. We're going to take it down to the range. We're going to do a full range report. But I wanted to go ahead and just go through all the features because this, to me, when the first one came out, I was just really excited. One of the big reasons is because of the Glock. And the Glock Model 20 has been my go-to for a number of years, the Glock Model 29. This is a Gen 4, and it does also hold 15 rounds. And the one thing, though, about it is that the slide is a lot thicker, so you have more slide mass coming back. But probably even more so is the grip, the diameter and the thickness of the grip. Now, Glock just released their Gen 5 Model 20 and 21. And we did a full review on the Model 21. They removed the finger grooves. The grip is just a little more ergonomic, and it does make a huge difference, but it's still thick. Now, am I going to get rid of my Glock Model 20? No, I love this gun. But with the Smith & Wesson M&P, and I'll tell you guys, if you're looking for a 10 millimeter, you know, for something that you've never had one, I would highly suggest checking this out, mainly because of the grip. Get the two guns side by side. This really is not that much larger than your 9 millimeter grip. It's a little bit longer in this way because of the cartridge is a little bit longer. But overall, very ergonomic feel to it, and really when you're shooting 10 millimeter, to me that is a very important factor when you're looking at a firearm. I have a number of 1911 10 millimeters, and they shoot really well. I love the way they shoot, but this gives you that more natural grip angle, gives you a thinner grip. But the big plus is it gives you 15+1. Now, I had some questions about the sights. Why in the world would you have suppressor height sights on a gun that obviously you're not going to put a threaded barrel in it? But this is made because of the optics cut here, and it co-witnesses with the optics. To me, that's a big deal. These are True Glow night sights, which is an upgrade over the original, which was just 3-dot white sights. And that's one of the things about the optics plate. And we're going to look at this because it does come with a number of different optics plate options, which is huge. A lot of companies now are going to, you got to order it. And the problem with that is if I want to change it, I've got to order something else. Now here I have a Trijicon RMR mounted, but when I'm doing my shooting, or really during the review, I like to do it as is. The way the gun comes out of the box, then you can put on your sights, and I don't really show a lot of shooting that way unless it's specific to the red dot. So one of the things about this sight in particular is because this plate is so thin, so this allows it to sit really close to the slide. Because of the height of the sights, you're able to get that lower co-witness. I mean, it is right at the bottom, and so it allows you to pick up that red dot very easily, but yet you have backup iron sights, and they are night sights. On the competitive model, it has serrations on the front, but also on the standard version. It has those more slide serrations than just here abbreviated at the bottom. And at first I was wondering about that, but one of the things about this little high power cut is that you can grip it for your press checks. So you really don't need those front cocking serrations, and it just gives it a more smooth, and to me, a more classic look to it. And then of course we have that Viper cut here at the bottom, so it just gives it that kind of a front end. Keeps the weight down on the end, and yet it gives you a little extra weight with that extra part of the slide. The serrations are that kind of a fish scale pattern. They kind of are waves, and they kind of come back. A little rise here at the back to give you just a little more grip when pulling back that spring, which on 10 millimeter is just a little bit heavier. And so I love the serrations. Again, these abbreviated serrations, you can use them, but you know, they're not quite as adequate as it would be for the complete slide serrations. But then again, and then we have an ambidextrous slide stop. Now I'm going to say slide stop because slide release on this is pretty substantial. I mean, you've got to really have some thumb strength. But it does bring out this slide stop to give you a really nice shelf on here. One of the problems with a lot of slide stops is, especially when you have a lot going on the side, is when you're shooting the gun, there are certain guns that I've had that would not lock the slide open on the last round. With this one, you've got to definitely mean to hit that slide stop. And so I'm going to go ahead and bring it back, and magazine's obviously inserted, so it's going to make it a little bit more difficult. But you've got to really come down on that slide stop. Now if you have a round in the chamber, it's going to be a little bit easier. But to me, that keeps it from inadvertently just not holding open on that last round. Of course, you have your takedown lever here. We have our mag release right here. Mag release is switchable to the other side. And then this model in particular has the frame safeties. And really, I prefer to not have the frame safety, but these are not bad. But here you can see this model does not have the frame safety. I believe right now when these are first being released, they're only released with the frame safety. But I'm sure they're going to offer versions without it. But it's a very natural, very easy just to bring up and down. It's kind of similar to your 1911 in a sense as far as the way it operates. Got a 3-slot Picatinny rail for any kind of lights or lasers. Got a curved trigger guard, nice and ample for those gloved hands. One of the big things too about this particular pistol is the trigger. Now the original 10mm 2.0, I was not impressed with the trigger. It was like riding a little bit on the striker safety, felt to me, with the new trigger, and it says it's been enhanced. It's more of a flat face. It has this trigger shoe, and this is just like on the original, and if you'll notice, if you bring it back, it'll stop it. You've got to have a full pad on the trigger. Now we have some take up to a wall. After the wall, a very improved brake. Reset right there. The reset is audible. It is tactile. It's a little more tactile than it was on the original 10mm, which honestly I even mentioned that I was not very impressed with the original version. It just seemed like when you brought it back, it didn't really have that much of a tactile feel to it. And so I would allow the trigger to go out just a little bit more. With this one, I feel the reset, and so it's just going to allow it to get better, more accurate shots. We're going to check the trigger pull weight with our Lyman trigger gauge from Brownells. 4 pounds, 11.9 ounces. 4 pounds, 8.1 ounces. Really about the 4.5 pound weight pull, and that is exceptional. The Armor Night finish, very well done. It's one of the things that I really love about the Smith & Wesson semi-automatics. The finish they put on here is just great. I mean, it has this almost a natural sheen to it. And it's one of those things that when you look at it with other polymer frame pistols, to me, this is one of the best looking finishes out there. It's not quite really matte. It's more of a little bit of a satin finish. But this is going to hold up very well. It impregnates the metal. It's more of a black nitride type finish. And so it's just going to give you really good corrosion resistance. Right here is your loaded chamber indicator, and you'll be able to see brass right through here if it's loaded. The barrel length on the original is 4 inches. When it comes to the new model, it is 5.6 inches. I saw a number of places that were stating guns that honestly had a lot of the same features from Smith & Wesson that have a 5-inch barrel. This is the 5.6 inch barrel, and so it's just got that little bit of extra length. But you can get performance center models without the ported barrel, without the longer slide length. You can also get them with adjustable sights. You can even get them with a trigger adjustment stop at the back. And there are a number of different models out there of these handguns. And then FDE, of course, the competitor models, those are definitely some upgrades with the aluminum frames. And so Smith & Wesson has really put out quite a few models of the M&P 2.0 10mm. But these also come in 9mm, 40, and 45. Now the rifling ends where the ports start, and so the rest of this is smooth on the end of the barrel. So if you're shooting for ballistics, it's just good to know that you really have about a 5-inch barrel as far as rifling, 5.6 as far as overall length. Now you get 4 different backstrap options, but they do have palm swells, which will allow it to really fit into your hand. 2 of them have a little bit of an addition to your beaver tail, and the other 2 do not. But one of the things about the grip, it's really easy to pull off. You just turn this bottom piece, pull it out, gives you a tool. We'll look at that in a second, and then you just pull the grip right off. And so it's really simple to be able to put whatever size you want to put on here. And here is with the larger size. It just gives you a little more surface here for the width of your hand if you have larger hands. And then you can just take the tool, you just want to put it in at an angle like this, drop it, and turn it. That is one of the easiest ways to change out your grip of any other pistol. Now small, medium, medium large, and large, and it's just marked right there on the back of the grip. One thing about the magazines though is it jettisons them out. I mean, it pops them out, and even if you have it up, I mean, it pops it up really nice. So you're going to be able to get rid of those magazines for a magazine change. Now the Outtakes adapter plates, it comes with 7 different models, which is pretty phenomenal. It'll cover almost any red dot sight out on the market. One thing I like too is they identify the screws that go with that optic and that plate. And they're a little bit different in shape, so you can choose, and it comes with a chart. One thing that it does include is this metal plate. The rest of these are polymer. It fits the Delta Point Pro, and it's made for 40, 45, and 10 millimeter. And the weight on the Smith & Wesson 2.0, 31.22 ounces. And also the Springfield Armory XD Elite. And this is again in 10 millimeter. It does come in a compact version. This is also an excellent ergonomic firearm. But I'll tell you the difference between the two, the Smith & Wesson has a smaller grip. Now for guys with really large hands, that does not come into play. I mean, you may still love that Glock Model 20, but for me, it is large. And so even when the Springfield Armory came out, it was a definite difference in grip thickness. I really like the XD Elite. I mean, this is an excellent shooting gun. In fact, my brother ended up purchasing the compact version of this model, looking at all the others. And again, guys, the one thing about this is you have to find the right gun for you. But really, as far as the grip, for me, medium-sized hands, I mean, this really feels good. But if I want something larger, I can add those bigger back straps. Big thank you to Fiocchi for sponsoring the ammo, all made in the USA, one of the largest suppliers of ammunition in the country. We also appreciate Lula Loaders for saving our thumbs. We also have some Hornady Critical Defense. We're going to be shooting some of it, and we also have some jacketed hollow points from Fiocchi as well. Just going to be testing it out, a little bit more hotter loads. Guys, I've always been a big fan of 10 millimeter. It's just got the power, and yet it has the capacity with a lot of these semi-automatics. And so it's one of those things that could be a great hunting companion, great for home defense, self-defense, but just great at the range. It's a very accurate flat shooting round. With the ports, this is just going to make a world of difference when you're shooting. Not that 10 millimeter is punishing, but it definitely has some recoil. Shooting it next to the standard M&P 10 millimeter, you can tell there is a lot of difference. Some of that is a little bit more weight on the end of the slide, but honestly, the ports are going to help. And really, a lot of people are concerned about the flash, especially at night, but it's really minimal, but very controllable. The grip makes a world of difference as well with this handgun. And so definitely the ports make a huge difference. And of course the slide mass being a little bit longer, that helps as well. But man, you just know that you've got power coming out of the end of that barrel. Woo. Man, I love it. Now we did have a few malfunctions with the full metal jacket loads. It's probably the way they're cut, but we only had about 3, but definitely, you know, going up the feed ramp, it just seemed to be a failure to feed. But the jacketed hollow points, we had no issues whatsoever. It was only with the full metal jacket, and really overall we had good success even with those. Now as far as disassembly, I'm going to go ahead and drop our magazine, check to make sure the gun is empty. The first thing you do is bring back your slide and put it in the slide stop. Now you can do 2 things. Right here with this tool that we showed getting the grip module off. If you look down into the frame here, there is a green lever right here, and you take your tool and you just push that into the down position. Now you don't have to pull the trigger. If you leave this alone, you just pull the trigger on this next step. Now just drop down your takedown lever and then hit that slide stop and then just bring it off. Again, you can pull the trigger, but Smith & Wesson gives you that option to be able to disengage the striker, and so that's just a great option. Have your recoil spring and guide rod. It is all steel. It's really heavy, very nice. And then we have our barrel. Again, 5.6 inches in length. Again, stainless steel barrel, Armonite finish as well, and you do have your ports. But guys, when it comes to the fit and finish, I mean, it's just beautiful. And one of the things about that Armonite finish is it shows up every detail, and it really is beautiful. And here with the frame, same thing. We have our slide rails right here and here, our frame rails. And you can see, I mean, it is a striker fire polymer frame pistol, but it's just very well done. And that's all you need to do to field strip. For reassembly, drop in your barrel, bring in your recoil spring and guide rod, bring it back over the frame, lift it, put it in slide lock, bring your lever up. Now if you're engaging that green lever, you want to make sure that you put your pin back into the grip, and then when you reinsert your magazine, it's going to bring that little green lever up into the correct position automatically. And then bring down our slide, test for function, and we're good to go. The Smith & Wesson M&P 2.0 10mm Performance Center, which is a long name, of course it's got a long slide, is $749 retail price. Of course you can get it for less at a lot of your different local gun shops. For the original standard model, they run $629, and this is pretty much your base model. And again, lower at gun shops. But what are some pros and cons? First off, 10mm. I mean, it's just an incredible round. Very similar to the 357 Magnum. You can get really hot loads for this, and you can dumb it down to shoot more weaker loads. So it gives you a wide range. If you take target loads out, they're going to seem really easy to shoot. If you get some buffalo bore, you know, it's going to have some punch to it. But that just gives you a lot of different capability, whether you're going to the range or you're going hunting or you want self-defense. And there's a ton of different options. With that being said, the ports in the barrel are going to help tame the recoil. And so that's just going to give you a little more advantage for it to be a little flatter shooting and also to get you on target faster. Nice round capacity of 15 rounds. The competitor model actually is offered in 17 rounds. And then again, they have the 22 round magazine. So you've got a number of magazine options. It's Smith & Wesson quality, beautiful finish on the whole firearm. A number of different backstrap options, optics ready with all the plates. So a lot of advantages. The weight, I would say that could be a con just because it's going to be a heavier firearm. And it's going to come in quite a bit more than the original, so it just is according to what your mission is, what your need is. But for competitive shooting, for hunting, I mean, this makes a great option. And again, for self-defense. I mean, you're going to have a really fast shooting handgun. The grip, definitely more ergonomic than probably any other option out there. I mean, it just has that really solid grip to it. And if you have smaller or medium hands, this is going to be a great option for 10mm. If you have larger hands, then you have a number of backstrap options. The sights are a high-profile sights. If you're not going to put a red dot on this, to me that would be a little bit of a con because it does stick up a little bit. It can catch on things. But honestly, once you put the red dot on here, it's going to co-witness and it's going to give you a lot of advantages. So definitely something, but not bad. Now with the trigger pull, that is a big plus over the original, and guys, honestly, has an exceptional trigger. Nice smooth take up, really crisp break. It's not a canic, which those things are phenomenal. The PPQ or the PDP from Walther, those are, I mean, there's a number of different triggers that have really been a cut above. But definitely a good solid trigger, and it's just going to give you good performance. Now, probably the biggest con was having some issues with Full Metal Jacket. The failure to feed each time. It may have been just the shape of the bullet. 10mm has that flat nose in the Full Metal Jacket. But with jacketed hollow points, we didn't have any issues. And also, really, once we had those first three, we didn't have any more issues with the Full Metal Jacket. Frame safety, you know, I'm not a big fan, but again, they will offer models typically without the frame safety. This is just the introduction, and this has just been introduced over the past couple of days. To be honest with you, as far as taking a 10mm out to the range or out to the woods, going hunting, or even for self-defense, I think this makes an excellent option. And to be honest with you, you know, I'm a Glock guy. I mean, I love them. But to me, this gives me more advantages, especially with the grip. And then, of course, with the ported barrel, that just takes it to another place. Guys, if you've really been looking at a 10mm, but you just feel like the grip's a little too big, it's one of the things that Smith & Wesson has really just done right. I mean, this, again, is very ergonomic. It fits your hand well. The texturing is great. The ports in the barrel really help tame the recoil. Side by side, it's a definite difference. And then, of course, with the improved trigger, that just makes it that much sweeter. And again, we really appreciate Smith & Wesson for sending the M&P 2.0 10mm Performance Center Edition. This thing is a beast. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America. Long live the Republic. You can really put a lot of rounds, okay? Now, Glock just released their 5, gives you a little bit of, gives you a little bit of a beefed up area near your beaver tail. Come on. And then the sight just, or the sight comes off. Man, I'm having trouble with this crap. I'm not sure what I even said there. Bring it down, release our slide. That was funny. That was not funny. Come on, people.